Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my channel. Today I have a tutorial. We are going to create a 12 activities of Christmas. We are going to make a Christmas tradition. And we are going to use these mini envelopes with these tab closures. Now, I did make a video recently, and here is what you can go and look for, where I show explicitly how to make these envelopes, but I'll show you here too. What you're going to need is some copy paper that is cut into 6 by 6 inch squares. Now we want to put some color on here, and one of the fastest ways I know to get color on is to brayer it on. So off on the side I have my gel plate, but you could use a silicone mat or just a glass tabletop. And I'm putting on green, yellow green on here, and I'm brayering it up and down, and then I'm turning it and I'm brayering the other way as well. Now, as you saw in the initial picture, I'm going to basically make a wreath with these mini envelopes that we're going to create, which is why I've chosen to do this in green. Brayering it on, it puts a very light layer, it dries quickly, but you could use gel prints here. You could also use wrapping paper. Now I'm going back on going over it again with a darker green, and this is Hooker's green, which is one of my favorite greens. And you can see I've got the white, the yellow green, and the darker green, and I love that look. It's very texturized, looks like leaves, and it was very quick and easy. So I'm doing this kind of assembly line because I am making 12 envelopes. Now I'm going to do 12 days of Christmas. If you wanted to do one day for every day in December up to Christmas, you would make 24 of these. You could also give them out to people in your family and have everybody make however many of them each. So once I have all of them done, look at that loveliness. I'm going to make sure that this dries. Now I'm coming back with the stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. This is called Big Wreath. And I am using the Hooker's Green, the darkest green. And if you only have a light green, try adding a little bit of black to it. And I'm just stenciling it all over. I don't care if I'm overlapping. I want this to look like the foliage of a leaf. Of a wreath, I'm sorry. And I just love the look of this. Now, once I do that for all of them, I'm taking this foliage cube from Stampendous and I'm stamping with Prussian blue. And again, this is just adding another layer of texture and it looks like the green. Once that's dry, I'm also going to put color on the inside of the envelope. This isn't exactly necessary, but the back side gets paint on it. And I thought, you know what? It's a quick, easy way to get paint on it. So I'm just going on with the yellow green and then brayering on the Hooker's green. I'm not going to do any stenciling on here, but you could if you wanted to. You can make the inside look exactly the same as the outside. Adding the extra coat of paint also thickens the paper, and because acrylic paint's kind of like plastic, it just will help preserve it because I want to use this year after year. And when you're brayering, just a quick reminder, you're going to go up and down and then turn the page and go the other way. So now we're getting into the folding part. So the first step is to fold it corner to corner, and I'm doing all 12 of my pages, corner to corner. Very simple. You can use a bone folder to make sure you get a nice crisp fold. If it's off a little bit, you can trim it if it really bothers you, if it's really off, but usually you can tweak it close enough. There I'm just using a gift card as a bone folder. Now what I'm going to do here, the second step in the folding, is to basically find the center, and I'm going to show you a better way of doing this. And I'm folding that tab up to that first fold. You don't want to go over that first fold and then roll it up again. So here, if I fold it just the other way and just make a little bit of an pinch in the middle, I can see exactly where that center is and fold it up there. That's the quickest, easiest way to doing that. So again, I'm going to do all 12 sheets. First thing I'm going to do, fold it the other way, pinch it in the center just to mark where that is, and bring this up, not going over that fold. That's really important. So once you have all of those done, you're going to need some kind of grid, and I'm going to line up the top point on one of the cross ones and make sure that on each of the wings on the sides goes an equal distance out. Then from the center, I'm going to put my straight edge on 1.5 inches. 1.5, and just mark where that fold is, and then I can come back and press this fold down. Line up the bottom so it's level, and use your bone folder or key card or whatever you have. Then you're going to take whichever side, and it doesn't matter if it's the right or the left, whichever one's on top, fold it back from center, then open the little bird mouth and press down, and that makes the tab enclosure. This gets folded right down, make a firm fold, and tuck it into the tab. So there are 40 different Christmas winter activities that I brainstormed and put in a font and made sure that they were the right size to fit into the envelope. I used a nice font, and before I cut them all apart, I'm just going to splatter them with gold paint just to make them a little bit more special. Add a little bling. Because again, I'm setting this up to be something that we use every year. So this year we might pick 12. Next year we are going to pick a different 12 activities. So I wanted to brainstorm ones kind of open-ended. Then I flipped them over to the back side, and I am splattering there too, because I'm going to decorate both sides. Is this necessary? No, but I'm showing you all the possibilities. And when you splatter on the backside and put stuff on the backside, if you do inadvertently get any paint on this or markings or smudges, it basically hides it. Now I'm just doing this on copy paper. This could be done on mixed media paper. Actually, no, this is on mixed media paper or cardstock. I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, whereas the actual envelope is made on copy paper and you want it to be thinner paper because it would get too bulky. So once they're all cut up, I want to decorate them. So this is Merry Tree from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm just stenciling in with 2 colors of green and then the red. On the other side, I grab a stencil that I created, that I cut with my silhouette, the holly, and again 2 colors. You could use stamps, you could use stencils, you could whatever theme or whatever you like. I have snowflake stencil that I could use as well. And then I'm edging it with either red or green. Half I'm edging with red, half I'm edging with green. And no, I'm not going to make you watch me do all 40 of them. But I really like these cards. And they're cut to the perfect size to fit in the envelopes. So if you want these printables, I have packaged them with the printables from the Christmas Memories Ornament, which is another video tutorial that you can get for free. And here are the samples, and it comes with all the printables together, and I'll be charging $5, and you can email me at creativekatie.com. So now I'm doing the background for the wreath. Now this is a mixed media board. It's 12 by 12 and it's from Crafter's Workshop, and I'll link it and the stencils down below. I'm putting a coat of gesso. One, I want to prepare it for the paint. I've never worked on these mixed media boards, so I wanted to try, but I also wanted to texturize it a little bit. So I'm brayering on some gesso here because I want that marking, those markings and interest. I don't want it to be flat color. Now I'm taking Prussian blue and I'm watering it down a little bit and I'm painting over it. And you can see that it's picking up the texture from the brayered on gesso. Some areas are darker, some areas are lighter, and this just adds interest to it. You could have done 2 colors of blue. And I chose blue because it's a nice backdrop for the green that I chose for the envelopes. If you're not doing a wreath, if you're doing something else, you have multicolors. It could be green and all your envelopes could be bright colors and they could be like Christmas ornaments hanging on the tree. Now this stencil is either flurries or the cake and cookie one called snowflakes. I'm stenciling on some red here onto the background because I do have red on my wreath and I wanted to read with the background. And then I have some cobalt teal iridescent paint, and I'm doing that with the snowflakes. Again, I'm keeping with the winter Christmas theme, but very subtle. I want the wreath to be the focal point, so nothing in the background do I want it to stand out too much. You could have picked gold. Now, we're using that big wreath stencil again. And here's why I chose to use the mixed media board, because it measures 12 by 12. It fits perfectly for this stencil. So I tape that down and I am stenciling on with gold. Now, most gold paints are pretty translucent. So if you want it to be a deep gold, you're going to have to use multiple layers of it. I wanted to introduce some bling, some iridescence. I wanted this to stand out. So I'm stenciling over, I let it dry. I think I put another layer of paint on it. And I'm using a makeup sponge. Less is more layers, build it up over time. You'll find more success with stenciling. So there we have it. And I love that. And I contemplated leaving it like that with the wreath being very, very subtle. But my first instinct was to make it green, then the same colors that the envelopes were. So I went back to my original. But if you love the gold, you can leave it as gold. Now I put the stencil back on. Now, it is highly unlikely that you are going to get it exactly where it is. And I'm counting on that because I want some of that shimmer to come through. I want some of the gold to be edged around the leaves. That's just adding to the overall finished product. I'm adding darker colors. I've got the yellow green, I've got green, and then I've got my hooker's green. And I'm just mixing them on, being very careful not to get too much paint on my makeup sponge at any one time. Again, build up those layers of interest. I could have come in and put a little bit of gold in here as well. Loving the look, just peeking to see the color. This wreath stencil I'm going to use for other projects because it's a perfect round shape and foliage that I can use to build up and use for other things. Don't you love, love, love this background? This would make a perfect canvas in of itself without the envelopes. Now I'm giving this a good dry because I've got lots of layers of paint on here. And then I'm just edging it with black, kind of smudging a little bit in the front because I always like framing my pages. I thought about shading some of the leaves and I thought that wasn't necessary, but I am splattering with gold. Because who doesn't love gold? Now we're going back to decorating the envelopes. And I'm mixing cadmium red with a little bit of ultramarine blue to get a little bit deeper red. And then I'm just painting a piece of mixed media paper. I push in my sink liner just to get a little texture. This is a 1-inch punch, and I'm cutting 36 of these. These are going to be holly berries. Now, initially, I was going to put single holly berries on the tabs. I edge it. I get out my Ranger foam inker, but then I decide I'm going to put 3 together, and here I'm just gluing them into bunches. And you can see how they're going to look on the mixed media board background. Now I'm going to attach them to the tab on the envelope with these Velcro from the Dollar Tree. They are super sticky. And you have to remember these envelopes are just paper, so if you're a little rough with them or you pull on them the wrong way, they will rip. But the good thing is you can always make more. And then the berries will just go on here. So the other part of the Velcro goes on here. What I want this to look like is the wreath. As I was doing this, I was figuring it out as I went along, trying to take the idea in my head and turn it into a reality in front of me. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So now I want to figure out the placement, and I use the painter's tape. I put it in the middle. I put 4 of the envelopes, 12 o'clock, 6, 3, and 9, and then I'm fitting them in just to get the spacing. Now I like the idea of having some of that green foliage from the stenciling on the background showing. In the end, I end up pulling them out a little bit because I came into a problem. So now I want to take another piece of Velcro and put it on there. So I put both pieces on, making sure that the one that is on top, that I can put the berries on here. So it's the positive, negative of the Velcro. I don't know what the technical terms are. So when the envelope is there, the berries are on the envelope. And once you've opened up that envelope, the berries come off and they go on the background. So it looks good at all stages of the 12 days or 24 days or however many you are doing. So I'm just going around and figuring out where approximately I want the envelope to stick. Now here, most of the time, you'll notice that it's sticking on the edge of the envelope. I do change that, and you'll see later on. The envelopes, because they don't lie flat, they're kind of 3D, really do look like a wreath. And the foliage matches the foliage on the background. Now I decided to put some words in the middle. Again, this is optional and up to personal choice. This was a stencil that I cut on my silhouette. This says Merry and Bright, one of my favorite Christmas sayings, and I have it elsewhere in my house, so I thought, oh, I'm going to go with that. And I stenciled with several layers of white paint. And then I'm coming back with red. The red is a little translucent, and if I had tried putting it on by itself, it wouldn't have been as dark and bright. So I wanted to make sure it's bright, which is why I did the white first. Now there's a little bit of white on the edges, and again, that's like highlighting the words, and I love that. So I moved these to the center. I just found that when this was actually going to be used, that was a better placement for them. So I very carefully peeled it off and put them in the center so that it would lie flat. So these are the cards, and what we're going to do in our household, we'll take out all 40 of them. My husband will pick 6, I will pick 6, and then we will put them in the envelopes and mix them up and add them to the wreath with the Velcro. And you can play with this, how you orientate it to make it look good. There's lots of give with this project. There I had to move it a little bit just to make sure that it fit properly. So there is my 12 Days of Christmas wreath. Now, how am I going to display this and use it? Well, I have this plate rack that I use to display art. So the mixed media board, because it's so solid, fits perfectly. Starting on the 12 days before Christmas, we'll pick one, open it up, see what's inside. My husband and I will do that activity. The berries come off, go on the background, and that can go back in the pile. If you were doing 24 days, you could then put another one in and put it back on there. So you will do 24 without having to make 24 envelopes. So as you go, you can see that the wreath is still looking like a wreath because you're getting that foliage that you stenciled on the background. And this is why I kept the background green for the foliage. But it looks complete at any stage of those 12 days. Now again there, I did rip that envelope. So reminder, it is paper. So it might be something that the adult in the house has to do. The child can maybe pick it out. And while this is something my husband and I are doing, many of the suggested activities are suitable for children and families as well. Thank you for joining me. Contact me if you're interested in getting the Christmas tradition printables for this project and the other one that I showed you, the memory ornaments. Here are some close-ups of the finished project. I can't wait to start our 12 days of Christmas. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. What do you think of this idea? Get creative. If you make your own version of this, I'd love to see it. Come and post it in my Facebook group, Mixed Media and Art Journaling. Bye for now.